The owner of Rangers Football Club refused to appear before a Scottish Football Association panel today, examining whether the club breached its rules. The future of Rangers remains in disarray, with no sign of a buyer for the debt-stricken side. As well as a possible tax bill of £50 million, hundreds of companies are owed sums from as little as £15 to as much as £25 million. For tonight's special report, our chief correspondent, Alex Thomson, has been to Glasgow to talk to some of those hoping for a payout. Well, that's interesting. Glasgow is kind of on the line and not very far away, and yet Alex Thomson doesn't seem to be with us just at the moment. Matt.
Thank you very much. Now, the next story that we're going to bring you is here. Business News and Aquascutum, the 160-year-old British clothing retailer, which has dressed Winston Churchill and the Queen Mother, collapsed into administration today, jeopardising 250 jobs. The company, whose manufacturing base is in Corby, Northamptonshire, operates a number of high street stores and concessions, including one at Harrods. Administrators say they are conscious of its long-standing heritage and hope to find a buyer soon. Marks & Spencer says that the supply problems with some of its best-selling lines of women's wear caused a surprise drop in sales. Like-for-like sales fell 0.7% in the first quarter of the year after stores ran out of popular pump shoes. The company also said it was caught out by the snow in February, which stimulated demand for knitwear.
Well, now, despite that business news, it was a reasonable day on the markets. At the close, the index of 100 leading shares was up by just over 100 points, rise of just under 2%. Now, she has stirred tensions with Britain over the sovereignty of the Falkland Islands. Now, Argentine President Cristina Fernandez has Kirchner has outraged the Spanish with plans to seize control of the energy giant YPF, which is majority owned by a Spanish oil firm. Spain has vowed clear and strong measures over what it calls a hostile decision. Jane Dodge has been looking at what's happening in Argentina and trying to assess for herself whether this is, in fact, some kind of revolutionary move by Ms. Kirchner, or whether, in fact, it has serious implications both for the Falklands and for Spain. But in a moment, we'll get to that report. We have a little technical breakdown, and let's give it to you now. Thanks very much.
It's certainly gone down well with the party faithful, a populist measure from the woman they simply call Cristina. Announced with a picture of Evita as a backdrop, little subtlety here when it comes to nationalism.
We are the only country in Latin America, and I would say in practically the entire world, that doesn't manage its own natural resources.
It was a previous president, Carlos Menem, who privatised oil production in the early 90s. The Spanish energy company Repsol was allowed to buy a controlling stake in the country's only oil producer, YPF. It was a deal backed by Cristina Fernandez's husband and future President Néstor Kirchner, seen here shaking the hand of the company's president. But Repsol has subsequently fallen out of favour. Cristina Fernandez has accused them of failing to invest in future production, leading to a rise in oil and gas imports. She believes the state can do a better job.
The model we have chosen is not a model of state interventionism. Let that be clear. It's a model for the recovery of sovereignty.
Repsol claims its senior staff were kicked out of their offices before the president had finished her speech, and it's accused her of deliberately undermining its reputation.
This action was preceded by a harassment and coercion campaign that led to the collapse of the price of the YPF's shares and facilitated the takeover at a bargain sale.
So has Cristina Fernandez thrown her lot in with her friend Hugo Chavez, another fan of nationalisation. Unlike the Venezuelan president, she's no self-proclaimed socialist. So is this pragmatism or just another popularist gesture, as some viewed her recent comments on the Falklands?
YPF was planning on investing around $7 to $8 billion a year in the next 4 years. These days, Argentina has neither the resources nor ways of raising such sums on the international market.
So they may be partying in Buenos Aires, but the Spanish government has cried foul, and Repsol has vowed to fight for $18 billion in compensation.
Well, I'm happy to report that the technical gremlins have now been rounded up, and we can go to our special correspondent, Alex Thomson, with his report on the Glasgow Rangers club. Here it is.
A football club is nothing without its people, its place, the community in which it's grown. So when a giant like Rangers goes bust, Glasgow feels the pain. Creditors across the world, of course, but businesses across this city out of pocket too. Glencairn Crystal in East Kilbride is a thriving family concern. Top quality glass for any occasion.
It was a retirement gift for Davy Weir, leaving Rangers.
Former captain.
Former captain.
Half-time at Ibrox in January, and a presentation for Davy Weir of Glencairn Crystal engraved with the club's symbol and signatures of the players. Sadly, 3 months on, Rangers have not been able to pay the company. But they have, however, got their £354 paid by Rangers fans.
Last Monday, I took a call from a Rangers fan who offered to pay the bill. Tuesday lunchtime, I had a knock on my office door and two chaps, one being the same who had phoned me the day before, came in with the cash, and after half an hour debate, he insisted that the money would be left on the floor. But he wanted to pay that bill for respect for Davy Weir. So after the half hour, I thought, right, okay, I'll accept it.
Is that all right, darling? I'll make you nice and pink, but I'll make you a butterfly. Okay, that's good.
Yesterday it was Edinburgh Zoo, today a playgroup in Glasgow's south side. Susan Thompson's face painting skills are very much in demand these days.
So in January I was working at a function for Glasgow Rangers for a group of kids, and they wanted their face painted with the saltire and the Glasgow Rangers crest. So it was basically, I worked for £40 and I was on the list of creditors and didn't think I would really be paid for it.
Not a huge debt, of course, a drop in the Ibrox ocean of IOUs. But it's the principle that counts, and again, Rangers fans agreed with that.
His name's Tom, and he was so sweet, and he just phoned me up and said, we want to pay off your debt, and he came to the house door, which was very sweet of him, and he gave me the money that Rangers had owed to me.
But the generosity of Rangers fans will only go so far, because in this city there are a host of public sector institutions owed large sums of money by the football club, and they're already squeezed by funding cuts anyhow. They see little chance of getting that money back from Rangers, who were prepared to spend thousands of pounds every week on players that they couldn't afford. North Glasgow College of Further Education, turning out people with construction, engineering and designing skills. An education sector hit hard by spending cuts. And yet still attracting students from all over the world. Not a place then that needed an £11,000 unpaid bill from a football club prepared to pay players that every week. A bill, I think, for what, £11,000 or so? What was that for?
It's around that. It was predominantly to provide, it was split into two bits actually. Part of it was to do with providing some computing programmes in the mornings for people that were coming, and the other part was to do with coaching. So that was the main kind of focus of it.
And I guess the obvious question, is there any sign that you're going to get your £11,000?
Well, I think that's yet to be tested. I mean, at the moment, the position the club's in, as far as I understand it, they're in a state of limbo at the moment, looking for a potential buyer. So we're hopeful that at the end of the day, we'll be paid out.
Coaching, of course, still goes on here, the irony being that it's colleges like these that provide a safety net for young footballers who don't quite make it in the sport. So you might think then that the rich men of Ibrox who ran this famous club into the ground would now be getting out their checkbooks, following the example of their loyal fans. But the college, the face painter and the glass engraver have never heard from them. Alex Thomson, Channel 4 News, Glasgow.